happy and we're singing and we're colored. Give me a high five.
What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is my boy. I'm here. I just got thrown off. I'm here with my brother from another big game, James. It's another episode of Best of Enemies, man. We about to do it again. We got my guy George Carmi back in the building. George, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man?
What's good, man? Happy to be here, bro. How you guys doing?
Can't call it. James, how you doing, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Draft is finally over. A lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys got to see a lot of the people they wanted go past them, so that felt good for the Eagles. But I want to start. I want to start before we get into, because we are going to go kind of pick by pick, see what we like about every player that we got. But we got about a week removed from the actual NFL draft. We've been able to see these guys, in uniform for the most part. We've seen a little bit of them running around in shorts and stuff. So I'll start with you, George. What was your first initial reaction to this whole draft? Sitting back on day 3, just being like, all right, this was the haul. What was your first reaction to it?
We loved it, man. Or I loved it personally. I think Washington definitely turned their team around. Just to kind of put it out there, Washington has flipped 57% of their roster. It's a completely brand new team. I think Jaden Daniels is going to bring us a lot of upside on our team. I'm really excited about that. If you guys remember, if you guys particularly watch the show, we did our mock draft session here a couple of weeks ago. I drafted Jaden Daniels. I was excited about him. I think he has a extremely high upside, so I'm happy with that. Going into the second round, we also stacked up some picks. We had 3 second-round picks there. We had Johnny Newton, who fell in the draft, man. I think that was it was a surprising pick. We actually traded with Philadelphia. We can talk about that later on in the show. Cooper DeJean was on the board, but we ended up getting Johnny Newton, who I'm happy with. I like Mike Sanderson from Michigan. I like Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. So I think we have a lot of options here for our team. So got some high upside, bro. I'm excited about it.
Definitely. James, talk to me. I haven't really asked you about this draft, but there was a lot of times that I was watching. Obviously, me and you did the first round together, but when I was watching day 2, day 3, I was like, damn, James, they might be in reach of one of the guys he likes, and then boom, they get taken. So what was your reaction from that first round of or that draft in total, I should say?
Like I said, the first part of the draft, I would say the first couple of days, I felt okay. I felt like we were in that B status. Obviously they never hit the playing field or anything like that. But if you're just looking at the initial talent and what you projected to be, I liked our first 4 picks. Obviously the second round pick, Marshawn Freeland, was the surprise, the defensive end from Western Michigan, I believe. That was the surprise pick. But overall, in that first, couple of days, I did think that, even though they went after the Carson kid, and I think he may be a player, I thought you could have got a defensive tackle. We had talked about Marshawn Lloyd. We actually talked about Marshawn Lloyd in our show this week on The Final Word. And Law asked me, he's like, what do you think about Marshawn Lloyd? And they were going to it was between him and somebody else. And I was like, I was frustrated because that was my guy. So toward the end of the draft, I was a little more suspect. We got a Rogers kid from Auburn at the 7th round. They're pumping him, but I don't know. I don't think he's doing anything. And then we got another guy from Louisiana, big boy. So I felt like the last half of the draft were just more like projectiles, maybe just fill-ins, but I don't really think they're going to have a impact. So I feel like the bottom of the round kind of tapered off. But the first 4 picks, I will say I do like what they bring to the table, and I think those 4 will see the field rather immediately.
Yeah, and I want to stay on the Cowboys just for a second. I'll talk about the Eagles obviously as well, but while I gotcha, I want to know, because the main thing we were talking about, I feel like every draft you were talking about, you wanted to walk out with a running back. The Cowboys did not walk out with a running back. They do sign Zeke. What was your thoughts as far as how that all kind of curtailed, how that all happened?
I didn't like it at all. I did not like it at all. And anybody who knows, listen to the Dallas Cowboys, when we did our shows, I was staunchly against it. I knew, because I know how much Jerry and them love him. And I said this, I felt like, when they let Zeke go, it was like, go get healthy. We're going to bring you back. I think it was like that was the under table talk. We'll bring you back. Just go away from a year. We'll bring you back. And because it just felt like you went right after it. And I just feel like once you had announced it before the draft, I don't, they had guys on the board, they tried, but I just feel like, why are you talking up players that they lost? And with the Carolina Panthers, obviously, we remember the kid from Texas. They talked him up. They traded up to get him. I just felt like they were doing a lot of talking, and I felt like, we'll go for a running back, but we have Zeke. So if we don't get our running back, let's build this offensive line. And that's what I felt, and that's what I saw in this draft. So they have, Rico Dowdell, who I think I like him, but he is injury prone. I don't like that running room. That Royce Freeman, he's okay. I still feel like they need explosiveness. Yes, we have power, but we need explosiveness. And as I said before, Zeke is a more closer to me, not the guy that you're starting with. So, and I feel like they're gonna push to put Zeke in there because they brought him back. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like he's gonna be the backup. They're gonna push Zeke to be the guy, and let's run it back and let's do this. And so I feel like they didn't go as hard at running back when they could have. You could have got a Marshawn Lloyd, and then I would have felt real good about Zeke, because now you got the speed to really press these defenses, and then you can end it with the power with Zeke, and then you got another little gadget guy in a Deuce Vaughn. Now, if you're just relying on Zeke and just settling with that, I just don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like the Cowboys in a turmoil. I'll say that right now. I like it.
I'm right there behind you.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got 120 people in the chat between the channels. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. We are streaming as well on George Carmi's channel, so definitely go give him a subscribe. Go follow him. It puts out great work. So now look, this is the Eagles. I don't gotta really go too in depth. Y'all know I love this draft. I mean, the Eagles were able to walk away with 2 of the top 30 players in this draft, getting Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, taking flyers on guys like Trevor Keegan, Jeremiah Trotter, which I think is a really important flyer, Johnny Wilson. So all around, I think that the Eagles did exactly what I wanted them to do. Got my guy Anais Smith, who I liked a lot. And look, at the end of the day, I think that the Eagles, and I've talked about this before, even the draft, they were in a position to be multiple, to be versatile, to be whatever they needed to be when this draft started. And this draft, once it started, it was like, okay, you're going to have defensive players at your whatever cornerbacks you want, you're basically going to have them at 22. So they went ahead and they double dipped into a great pile of kids. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think Trevor Keegan is probably the most underrated signing of all these rookies, just because he has a real possibility to go out there and get a right guard job. So I'm excited to see what the Eagles can do with this. I do want to touch on the trade real quick, because you did bring it up. What were your thoughts initially because I know the Eagles have traded with the Cowboys, and when that happened, I was like, what the heck? But ours wasn't as, that was top 10 trading with the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. But what was your initial reaction when you saw the trade between the Eagles and the Commanders?
So it was interesting, right? So the top of the second round, Washington really needed a left tackle, right? So we're kind of waiting for that left tackle to kind of drop into our hands. We were also looking at defensive back. We're looking at, a lot of talk, it's kind of funny this person fell. TJ Tampa, we all talked about him going in the draft as well. We thought he was going to be there in the top of the second. So TJ Tampa was floating around there. Cooper DeJean was floating around there as well. So we definitely, I had my eyes open on that because we do need depth at our CB position. I was a little bit disappointed at first, especially we got Johnny Newton, and we got Johnny Newton, who is a top 15 talent, to be honest with you guys. He is going to start. He's going to be in a rotation for a defensive line. So I was a little bit concerned at first, but dude, walking away with 2 second-round picks, that's fantastic. We walked around 3 second-round picks. So like, if you look at it across the board, like in regard to DC, almost unanimously, we got an A grade on our draft board, because I think we're walking away with about 4 starters from our team, which is going to be pretty exciting. Jaden Daniels, upside quarterback. Walking away from that DeJean trade, it was either DeJean or Mike Sanderstill and Ben Sinnott, and we got 2 players that are going to be immediate impact players for us. And I don't know if you guys any of you guys, even in the chat, Ben Sinnott, so definitely he's a flexible tight end piece, and I think it's going to help out Jaden Daniels a lot. So, it's collective. I think having 2 starters as opposed to 1 is a win trade. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was shocked. I knew that there was a possibility the Eagles moved up for a cornerback in the first round, or we heard offensive line, we heard wide receiver, which I knew that wasn't going to happen. But we heard that there was a possibility we would move up. But to move up, I thought these second round picks were going to be used to move down to get you another third, another fourth. We did both, which is just crazy to me. I mean, we were able to get we gave up the 50 and the 53. We took your 40. We also gave up the 161, and we also took your 178 and a 5th round pick, which was number 152. So we turned it into a lot. I mean, obviously the Eagles kept on trading. So that 4th round pick turned into like 15,000 5th round picks, but it is what it is. I loved it. I mean, I think that both teams, like you said, you got two guys that you really feel good about that can probably go out there and start for you right away. Ben Sinnott, a lot of people were kind of surprised by him, but I heard a lot of people prior to the draft saying he might be one of the best tight ends in this draft, not named Brock. So I think that it was a really good pick. And then the Eagles, you get your guy DeJean, and you not only get your guy DeJean, you stay in, you get back into the 3rd round. You're able to get a guy like Jalix Hunt, who you have a lot of connection to. They really like this kid. So, and then you also got Will Shipley. So I love it. I mean, it couldn't have went better for the Eagles. I'm happy with this draft.
I said that last year.
I haven't been this happy with a draft in a long time. Last year wasn't that bad. We just fell apart at the end.
I'm saying you was happy about that draft last year. Yeah, you're right, but not all of them. Our draft picks were pretty good last year. Good.
He wasn't terrible. He just didn't get much playing time.
Okay, why?
That's what I'm saying. He didn't get much playing time because we had Hassan Reddick, but now Hassan Reddick is gone. You can't play the doppelgangers. You know what I'm saying? He was basically a doppelganger of Hassan Reddick.
So Joe, this is popping up. Is Howie Roseman overrated? Is he overrated as a GM?
Heck no.
He gets a lot of love.
He deserves it. He deserves. I think that when you look at, all right, does he miss on draft picks? Definitely. There's a lot of people that miss on draft picks. Does he miss on trades sometimes? I mean, trades, you can make an argument. He really doesn't. But when you look at the contract management, the salary cap management, he makes it look like the salary cap isn't real. Like, you know what I'm saying? The things that we do, all the people that we signed, and we're still one of the most cap rich teams come next year. So I think that he deserves every bit of credit that he deserves. Does he maybe deserve some criticism for some things that kind of get swept under the rug because of the good stuff that he does? Yeah, I'll give you that. Definitely, we kind of prop him up sometimes when maybe we shouldn't. But I think that he deserves, especially right now, all the love he's getting. That draft was crazy to turn your 2 second-round picks into another 3rd round pick and a better 2nd round pick, and then turn those 4th round picks into more 4th round picks and 5th round pick. And then you got draft capital for next year. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't see many GMs doing that. So there's good GMs in this league. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blind and saying he's the only good one, but he deserves to be on that tier that he is right now. Do you think he's overrated? Because I think
I ain't gonna hate on Howie. I'm gonna say he's in the upper echelon of GMs just because of the aggressiveness. I give him that for the aggressiveness. He stays aggressive. He's always trying to win. He's always trying to find the best way to win, and he never sleeps. He's always trying to find the best way to make his team better. So in that aspect, I think he is one of the top ones because he brings in the talent that helps the team be good. We've seen GMs bring in talent, and the free agents don't work. We've seen GMs basically get fired after bad drafts. So for that aspect, I'm gonna definitely say, he's in the upper echelon of GMs. And going to playoffs and then obviously Super Bowls, you can back that up with it. So I don't have no hate for no Howie Roseman. I may not like your team, but I always got to respect what's going on. Just like with Washington, I said with Washington, I mean, I hate Washington. That's my most hated team. But I have to respect what's going on over there. That defense that they built up looks real good. And it's really going to be shut up. And then it's going to be on Jaden Daniels, though. You feel me? We got to see what he's really going to do. But, Quinn got a really good staff over there. And I said it. They're going to be competitive. And I feel like they're going to split Dallas this year. I really feel that way.
It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this. So I do want to ask you, George, because we did talk about it prior to the actual draft. You did pick Jaden Daniels, if I'm not mistaken. You took Jaden Daniels in our mock. So we talked about possibilities, what he might be, what he could be. all of that was all hypothetical, but now it's real. Now it's 100% real. This is your draft class. Talk me through the Jaden Daniels pick. Talk me through what you are looking for him realistically, from him, I should say, realistically in year one.
Yeah, so I love it. So I think, we talked about it before. We're kind of waffling between Drake May and Jaden Daniels. Like real talk, I think between the three of us, I think Jaden Daniels strikes the most fear in the defense. Right? He has that rushing ability. He has that deep ball threat. He has that fast processing. He is the most pro-ready of the quarterbacks that were coming out. I thought, Caleb Williams had kind of a regression year. Jaden Daniels had a Heisman Trophy winning year there. The only concern I can see with Jaden Daniels is his size. Is he going to be injury prone? Is he going to be hit often? We'll see how that actually goes. But I do think that him and Cliff Kingsbury are going to be a great match. If you guys remember, Cliff Kingsbury, he helped Kyler Murray get his way into the league. He helped Kyler Murray win Rookie of the Year when he was on Arizona. So there was some high upside there. Once again, Cliff Kingsbury also helped out Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, Johnny Manziel, not Baker Mayfield, but he basically helped out a lot of people in regard to their just transitioning, and he's good with mobile quarterbacks. So I think Jaden Daniels does have that upside there. I think what we're going to see in DC is they're going to rely on a lot of RPOs. They're going to rely on more of a spread offense. They're not going to put so much pressure on Jaden. I think they're going to rely on our defense. I think, James can talk to that. I think with Dan Quinn, with kind of Joe Witt, they're going to build it up where it doesn't have to necessarily rely on him there. So I'm pumped about that. And the rest of the draft class, man, it's looking great. So Johnny Newton, as we talked about before, I thought he was a top 15 pick. Honestly, go back. I'm not even hyping it up because I'm a DC guy. Go look at any mock drafting of Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks. Johnny Newton was a top 15 pick, but he fell because he had a Liz Frank in his foot, but he played through it. And it's ideal for us because Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne are already strong defensive tackles, but Jonathan Allen's 29 now. Johnny Newton's a rookie. They can rotate with each other. It's going to help out with the balance in regard to just getting reps. I'll go a little bit further than I can kind of pause, but Mike Sanders still, I love him. He's underrated. A lot of people say he's arguably the best nickel cornerback in the draft. He's 5'9", he's a little bit small, but he plays above that. He was the captain of Michigan's defense. He stuck through with Michigan when they were 2-4, or they had a really bad losing record in the COVID year, but he stuck through them. And a lot of people transferred, but Mike Sanders still stayed there. And he's a legit, man. I think he's going to be a great piece for our defense. Ben Sinnott's a H-back. He's going to be more of like a fullback / tight end. He's got some great speed after the catch. He's a truck. And then the last, all the other ones are kind of high upside picks. Brendan Coleman was a guard, could potentially be a tackle. Luke McCaffrey got that, McCaffrey bloodline. He's going to be more of a slot guy for us. And then Jordan McGee, people are hyping him up. We actually, like I said before the show started, Joe, Brett Coleman was on my show on Monday, and we were talking about draft picks, and he was most excited about Jordan McGee. He was like, he comped him to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from the Cleveland Browns. He's like, hey, he's like, McGee, he's kind of like, he's on him. He's not necessarily acclaimed like everybody else, but he might be able to beat Jamin Davis out for reps. And our linebacking core now is Bobby Wagner, Frankie Olivo from Carolina, and let's say Jordan McGee or Jamin Davis. We have some potential on that second level, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I like Javonte Jean-Baptiste. I was talking about him closer towards the draft. I was starting to talk about him. I did not on my bingo card have him going in the 5th round, but I think that he's an athletic monster. I think he's going to be very, very interesting to watch. Looking at this draft class, throw me a grade. And is there anything you would have done differently if you were the GM looking back on it? I mean, hindsight is 2020, but is there anything you maybe wanted to see done differently with this class?
So I'm happy with the class. Realistically, I will give it an A. I'm not trying to be like hyping it up, but I do see a lot of potential here. The Johnny Newton pick kind of raised our eyebrows a little bit because we're like, hey, why did you get a defensive tackle in the 2nd round where you need a cornerback, where you need potentially another wide receiver, or where you need a left tackle? But I'm happy. Like with the state of our team having the 2nd worst record in the entire NFL, it's all about stacking up great, talented players, right? Instead of reaching for our left tackle, like we like Tyler Guyton, we like Demarius Mims, we like all these other guys that are coming off the board, but they were all off the board. So what are we going to do? We're going to reach for like the 10th best left tackle or the number 1 overall defensive tackle, right? So I like Johnny Newton. A little added piece for everyone that's listening. Jonathan Allen's last year of his contract is going to be at the end. Like, he has no more guaranteed money after the season. So potentially Johnny Newton can slide into a starter's role. He's kind of learning this year. Let Jonathan Allen go potentially next year. We get $20 million more on our salary cap if we elect not to re-sign him. So it's a forward-thinking move, which I kind of like. The other questionable move was getting Luke McCaffrey in the third round at pick 100. Troy Franklin was on the board. Malik Washington was on the board. There's a couple other dark horse wide receivers, if you're following the draft, they're on the board. So you could have potentially gone there. But, I think that, Adam Peters, former GM of the 49ers, he kind of has that affiliation with the McCaffreys, or the family that they're coming from, and knows the background, and it's kind of wanted to go for it. And, we've been seeing workout videos of the McCaffreys all together. It's a flyer in the third round, pick 100. If he has a good work ethic, if he's working out with his brother, if he becomes a possession receiver for us, I'm not mad at it. Like, to finish that off, Troy Franklin was a great wide receiver, but he's more of like a one-trick pony. He's an explosive, like, Deshaun Jackson type kind of wide receiver, but McCaffrey's more of possession type. So maybe that'll help him, like Jaden Daniel, pass over the middle.
Speaking of Deshaun Jackson, did you guys see that the podcast that him and LaShawn McCoy did talking about Chip Kelly?
No, I did not see that.
Ooh. So let me give you a quick, because I want your thoughts on this. Because quick rundown, basically what happened with Chip Kelly and Philadelphia and how that kind of went down. But they do a 25-10 podcast, him and Deshaun Jackson, and they basically did a full show being totally open book about what happened with LaShawn McCoy getting traded and Deshaun Jackson getting released, and basically how Chip Kelly made up gang tie rumors. What I want to ask you guys this question. If that was your coach, if that happened to you, because me personally, I'm right now like, there's no way he can get sued, or can he get in trouble for this? Like, because you basically like ruined Deshaun Jackson's career. How would y'all feel if that was y'all coach in a Chip Kelly? I mean, you guys have had your head coaches that are, off the wall, but like, what are y'all thoughts about that in general? I don't even know the question to ask.
James, you want to go first, or may you go?
No, I'm gonna
let me go first. Okay. All right. So Chip Kelly was so interesting watching from the outside. His first year in the league, I was like, damn, you guys might have got something there. You got someone that's creative, thinking outside the box, this new innovative offense where he's spreading the field. I was intimidated at first when we had Chip Kelly. Then I watched him single-handedly destroy the Eagles. I thought he was pulling off some of the best players on the team, dismantling what Andy Reid did, getting rid of as a Commanders, Redskin, Washington football fan, I was like, yo, Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy put fear into my team. I was worried to watch him every single week. Getting rid of McCoy, go check my receipts on Twitter. I was like, please, Deshaun Jackson, come over to DC. And he did. And I was hyped about it. He actually had a couple good years here in DC too. You said he ruined his career. I thought he actually did pretty solid over here in DC for a couple of years. So I was happy with him. And no, for real. And so for one, I thought Chip Kelly, he broke you all down. The best part about y'all is you recover pretty quickly and you got to turn your team around. There's got to be some way to press charges, right? in regard to the other question, like slander, libel. I don't know what the actual legal term is, but I remember there was a gang tie affiliation that they were talking about constantly on Twitter, and I was like, dude, I don't care as long as you play football on Sundays. Come over to the Redskins, I'm down for it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yeah,
I was so mad. James, how did you feel about all that?
I mean, you know what, Chip Kelly is. I mean, that's wild and that's crazy. Just like what George was saying in the very beginning of it, that offense had me nervous, dog. Like when y'all had McCoy, Jackson, it was high speed. I was like, man, this is gonna be a problem for a while, dog. Like I didn't want to play y'all because I was like, they're gonna run. You know how our defense always has problem with those type of offenses, those type of speed offenses, those type of running backs, and when you're running it like that. But then when I saw him doing what he was doing, I was like, okay, yes, please keep him. Don't get rid of Chip Kelly. Keep him so he can just destroy this whole team. When you get rid of LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, and these guys ain't even at their end of their careers, and then you go and get a DeMarco Murray, and I knew that wasn't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? I knew. Sorry, I'm taking my stepdaughter to my her practice, but I knew that wasn't gonna work. you know, when you got a DeMarco Murray. So it was just crazy. And then, just like I said, I don't know how you can't go after a person like that, but dog, they had something. Y'all could have had something really great with that core, and to just do what he did, I'm gonna always say thank you, Chip Kelly.
Yeah, you guys are gonna build him a statue.
I'm gonna always say thank you, Chip Kelly, because he stopped something that could have been really, really good, because nobody had really seen the offense. You know, like I remember when they had the run and shoot back in the day, and everybody was like, man, what the hell is this? They can't stop this. And that's what I felt about that Philadelphia offense, how high speed it was, and how, especially Sean McCoy, it just seemed like he was really benefiting from that offense, and he was just becoming a crazy running back. And I was like, I don't want to deal with that. And then to see what he did, hey, like I said, I'm forever grateful for Chip Kelly.
Ripped us apart. Yeah, and apparently there was a cornerback that wasn't, you know, he wasn't a starter or anything, but Rock Carmichael, he had like nappy hair, you know, some kids use it as like a style, like that's some kid's style, but he had like nappy hair, and Chip Kelly asked him to cut his hair so he would look more presentable.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot. I definitely implore you guys to go watch that. If you didn't watch the episode, it's about an hour, but it is insane. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that it's like not really a surprise, but it's just like, wow. You know, it's just like, I can't believe this man got away with this. But anyways, let's get back to the draft. I just wanted to take that quick tangent. I do want to talk about my Philadelphia Eagles, because I am proud of this team again. At the end of the day, look, the Eagles had needs, but I don't think that they were as pressing as maybe some other teams. Some other teams, I felt like you looked at their squad and they're like, if they don't want them, kind of like the Cowboys right now that, you know, James had to step out for a second. I'll take a shot at his team. But, you know, like the Cowboys, you kind of got to walk away with a running back. But I don't feel like the Eagles had that type of need. I don't think there was one certain position that they had to walk away with, but cornerback was definitely something that you wanted to look at towards the future. I talked about how they got both of those guys. That's amazing. But guys that really, I think, really stuck out to me again was the Jeremiah Trotter pick. I talked about Jeremiah Trotter. I have said that I'm not the biggest proponent on. I didn't think that Jeremiah Trotter was the top dog like a lot of people were saying. I didn't think he was the best linebacker in this draft, but to get him at pick 155 in the 5th round, I think that was beautiful. It's a legacy pick. It kind of like what you were saying with Luke McCaffrey, except we had kind of like, you know, we had a dog in the fight, so to speak. It's one of those guys that you have the NFL in your background, you have that in your blood. You know how to deal with Philadelphia. He played in Philly. So I think that he'll be fine. I think that it'll be an interesting pick. Johnny Wilson was probably my favorite pick. I'm going to be real with you. And it's not because I was so high on him coming into the draft, but I was listening to, this was one of those where were you picks. But when he got picked, I was driving in the car. I was, you know, listening to the draft, and I'm looking at the best available. And I'm like, yo, they better take Johnny Wilson right here. There's no way that they just let Johnny Wilson go by him. We take him, yeah.
So what are they going to play him though? I heard people talking about him as a tight end. Are they going to play him as a tight end, or are they going to keep him as a slot wide receiver? What are you thinking?
From what I've been told, from what I keep hearing, is that the Eagles are cool with keeping him at wide receiver. That's what I keep hearing. He wants to stay as a wide receiver. They said that they're open to him doing that. I personally think he should be a tight end. I think that would be insane. But I mean, he blocked well. It's not like he didn't block well in college. So I think that him at tight end makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's one of those things that you give him a year or two to kind of try and get his footing as a slot guy. And then, you know, if it doesn't work out, you say, hey, you want to kind of keep your career going, maybe transition to tight end. But either way, I think you have a weapon. I mean, even if you say, all right, you're a wide receiver that sometimes goes in line, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that we're afraid to do that. So I think he's a very, very interesting player. And especially when you have Anaya Smith that you picked right before, they're like literal opposites. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they can. Anaya Smith is most likely, in my opinion, gonna take that wide receiver 3 spot. I don't really have much faith in who do we have? Paris Campbell or Devontae Parker. I have no faith in Devontae Parker or John Ross. Like I don't think any of those guys are gonna take it. I think Anaya Smith is that guy. He's just more of a true wide receiver. And then Johnny Wilson's a very interesting guy. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think when you look at this draft as a total, it checked off a bunch of boxes. Obviously, you needed some guys to, go out there. Edge was kind of a concern this year too. You needed some depth there. But looking at the future, you have our defense is going to be fine. This is the first time that I can say with confidence that the Eagles don't have to worry about cornerback for a little while, because I can't remember the last time that we've actually drafted for the future of the position. So I think this was an A++, especially when you factor in the draft picks that you're getting next year. I think they absolutely killed this draft. So my whole fear is just health and how you're going to kind of integrate these guys, because there's going to be questions about Quinyon. Cooper DeJean, they're saying that he's going to be more of a slot nickel kind of guy.
Yeah,
so
about him.
Yeah,
you arguably got two. I mean, for real, arguably the best two cornerbacks in the draft. Quinyon Mitchell was highly rated, top 10, 15 pick. He's a fighter, man. He was also with the Senior Bowl, as you know. I'm sure you guys were there and you saw him there. And then Cooper DeJean, super athletic, man. He's like, he crushed. The only reason he did not necessarily shine out in this whole draft process, he was a little bit injured going into the scouting or the NFL combine, so he wasn't there. But sorry to interrupt you though. Is he going to be a slot safety? What's his thoughts on DeJean?
Yeah, DeJean. I don't even know how to say his name. It's either DeJean. I don't know. At the end of the day, he's Cooper. No. That's what the reports are right now, is that they're going to be trying him at the nickel corner position.
Okay,
and then kind of moving on from there. But I personally think that it's just going to come down to training camp. Who looks better? If Quinyon looks better, Quinyon will be your quarterback too. If Cooper looks better, he'll be your cornerback too. And then the other guy will just kind of fall in wherever they fall in. I think that Cooper is probably better suited to have a more versatile role than a Quinyon Mitchell is. I think that Quinyon, it makes sense to keep him on the outside, where Cooper, you can play him at safety, and I would feel confident with him, to be honest. Yeah. So,
you feel confident with a rookie? You talking about feeling confident about a rookie, dog? Come on now, you gotta let him see.
I feel confident.
Yeah, you got
if you're playing him with the guys,
he's still a rookie. You got to see how he looks in mini camp and preseason. You feel me? Because, you're going on trajections. You know what I'm saying? And safety ain't no easy position to come in and play neither.
No, definitely. I definitely agree. But my thing is, you already have guys that have been there for a while. You got guys like Reed Blankenship. You have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that know the defense, right? And they know what, they're going to be asked to do. So if they think that he's ready, I think that that's obviously the barometer. If they think that he's ready, I think that he's ready. So I'm not nervous about any of these guys if they have to go in and start. Like, literally up until probably, I'll say, like Johnny Wilson, like Trevor Keegan, I think has a good shot of starting. I think Jeremiah Trotter has a good shot of starting. Will Shipley probably not, but he'll see some time. So I mean, I feel comfortable with all these guys. It's just like you said, I have to see what they do at training camp and see how they look when they put the pads on. But hey, I feel good. I say A++. There's not much I would have done differently. I would have probably gotten Edger and Cooper. That's probably the only thing I would have done differently. I really wanted Edger and Cooper, and he was there, but you took Cooper DeJean, so it's like I can't really complain too much. It is what it is. But shout out to everybody in the chat. We got 272 people in the chat, so be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe wherever you are. Now, I don't know how y'all been waiting for this, but I've been waiting for James to explain this draft to me. So I'm excited to hear this one. I'm going to sit back, drink a little bit of my tea. We saw a lot of these guys. One thing I will say that is cool, you had the best undrafted free agency probably in the show's history. No. You
Oh,
did.
yeah.
You already know why. So you can get it if you want, but yeah, you had an amazing undrafted free agency. But yeah, talk to me about your draft and how you're feeling. We got to see a lot of these guys up close and personal, which is cool.
Right. Well, first of all, I looked at both of y'all's drafts and I was like, hey man, y'all had some good drafts. I liked your picks. I will say this. I hope Newton does something over there, because I would love to take some Jonathan Allen away from y'all next year. Come on over here and play with us, dog, because I love Jonathan Allen. Ever since he had that rant, he been one of my favorite players. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, that dude, he cares. So I'd love to have Jonathan Allen. And plus, when y'all got Newton, you know what I mean? Go ahead and get rid of John Ridgeway. Let him cut him, let him come on back to Dallas, dog, because we need some Ridgeway. We need defensive tackle help.
We like him in DC.
Yeah. Y'all got that crowded room. Lose somebody. If y'all lose somebody, we'll take them. But if we talking about our draft, you was there. Joe, when we picked our first pick in Tyler Guyton, I think what happened for Dallas was good for the fact of they did the trade back and they netted the third round pick, which gained the pick back from losing the fourth round pick that you traded for Trey Lance for. So that was the good thing. They almost, in my opinion, had to do that. A couple people came off the board that they thought they were going to get. Troy Fontenot, I think he probably would have went to them if he was available. And then you had Jordan Morgan, who I interviewed, and I liked him. And then you also had somebody else went that they went. Graham Newton. He went over to the Bucks. So you had three guys that the Cowboys I know had really targeted to be on their team. So when they did that, I like how, like I said, they came back with the trade back. Once they came with that trade back and they got Guyton, if you look at the pick where they got Guyton at, it doesn't bother me as much. I do feel like Guyton is very green right now. But from what I heard was the reason why he was on the right side because his quarterback played on the left side. And because he played on the left he was a left-hand quarterback. That's why he mostly played on the right. But, you know, when they brought him in, he said, I'm all about I can play on the left. I don't care. It's not going to be a hard transition for me. So I think I love that. And also, when you look at his size, I mean, the dude is 6'8", 332 pounds. He has all the elite measurables that you want in a tackle position, especially the left tackle position, has all the elite traits. Just like I said, you just don't have a lot of experience because he came in as a defensive tackle. He was a tight end. So you're real green at the offensive tackle. But I think if you continue to get good coaching, the Cowboys, if you looked at our history, we have a very good history of drafting offensive linemen. If you look at Tyron Smith, you had Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and so on and so on. We've had so many good offensive linemen that we picked in the draft. So that gets me excited that, you know, eventually that'll be something that'll be happening later on down the line. So I like that pick in Tyler Guyton for the future. I think it's going to be a now and a future. I think he's going to have some struggles this first year, but I do think that maybe toward the middle of the year, toward the end of the year, you'll really start seeing why they drafted him. And I think he can be a bookend for the team. So I'm not mad at that pick at all. And then on the second round pick, that was a surprise pick, obviously, at the defensive end, and Marshawn Freeland from Western Michigan. I hadn't really known too much about him, but your boy Smitty was on the show. Remember, Joe, when your boy Smitty was on the show, and he mentioned him. He was like, "Y'all be playing. He nice." So after he said that, Joe, I went to getting in the books about him. I went to get to looking and studying. I'm like, yeah, he is pretty sweet. You know what I mean? So that when I heard them pick him, I wasn't like, oh, hell no. You know what I mean? It was more like, okay, I've heard about this kid. And then when I heard about I had interviewed a guy named Mike Fisher. He knows a lot of Cowboys news, and he said there was a lot of changes getting ready to come up. And DeMarcus Lawrence being on the last year of his deal, now you can potentially look for a replacement. And this guy right here, he can put his hand in the dirt. He can stand up. He plays with his hair on fire. He has a good mirror where he can mirror the players. He can gear down. So he has a lot of good traits. And the thing is, like I said, he's relentless. So I like it for a future and a now, because that could be he could be in the rotation now, and he could be your starter next year. And then I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, James, I did some research on Marshawn Nealon before the draft too, because Washington was looking at edge. I think he's a good player, man. I think he's definitely he's an explosive pass rusher, and he can dominate in games. The only question about him is he played for Western Michigan, was a talent level really high for him consistently. But if you look at ability, prospects, and you look at it as a scout perspective, I think he does have a high upside. And I wouldn't like if you went in the 30s or in pick 40, something like that, no one would have batted an eye. So getting him at 56 is a pretty good pick there. So I think the only concern for him is he actually is it going to translate at the next level? But typically, height, weight, speed, it's always good to kind of bank on that. My question to you, though, is for Tyler Guyton. Is he going to be your immediate starter, or is he going to be because Guyton, I agree with you. Everything you said is 100% true. He has a size, he has the upside, but he is a little bit green. Do you think he's going to start the first couple of weeks, or do you think it's going to be transition as the year goes on?
Honestly, we're going to see. I think training camp is going to be huge for him. Just like Tyler Smith the year prior, when we drafted him, they drafted him at left guard, right? And he was going to be the left guard of the future. Then you saw Tyron Smith go down, and we saw that Tyler Smith could play tackle, but he was mostly playing a lot of guard. So I was a little bit nervous right then when that was happening, because he had not played guard all training camp. Not played tackle all training camp. And then right before training camp ends, Tyron Smith goes down. He jumps right in as a starter. So, it was a little bit nervousness right there, but you saw what he did. He hit the ground running and had a really good year at the left tackle position. Even though he gave up some sacks, you saw the potential. So much of the potential that you were like, hey, we can keep him at left tackle and just go ahead and let a Tyron Smith go. That's how good he showed, in my opinion, in that first year. So I feel like coming out of this year, I think, like I said, training camp is going to be the huge thing for him. How does he look in training camp? Does he look like a guy that can hit the ground running? So I think that's what the experiment is going to get. It's going to get a lot of work in the preseason, I believe. And I think that's really going to be the barometer. They got Chuma Odega. He played tackle for us last year. I'm not really excited about him, but we do have a pick in the 5th round from last year and from North Carolina, and Sim Richards. He played a lot of left tackle in preseason, and he played he played left guard and left tackle in college. So I think if he shows anything, they might try to go with kind of those guys before they try to throw him at the fire. So I really think, how comfortable does he feel in training camp? And if he feels good in training camp, then I think they'll put him out there and hit the ground running. But if not, I think they'll go with the veteran and kind of slow bleed him in there.
There you go.
So, but I think our third, I think he's going. I think, like I said, the elite traits, he's going to be. I think he's going to be real good. It's just going to be a kind of a struggle this first year, But I think the guy that everybody's excited for is the Cooper Beebe pick. That was the trade back pick that you got in the 3rd round. He was the guy that was on a lot of people's radar, and he was the one that I know a lot of people were talking about in Cowboys land, that get him. Obviously, y'all remember Travis Frederick. He was a dog. Everybody talks about they reached for him in that 1st round, and you saw what he did. And if he didn't have that disease, he probably still would be the starting center. So you had a guy that came out of there that was maybe they thought was overrated and was could have been a 10-year starter for you. That's what we're talking about. What possibly could be with Cooper Beebe. The dude is from a football family. Dad was a coach. Dad played football. Both his brothers play football. Like I said, I think his younger brother plays at K-State right now. He's like a lumberjack. He's the guy. You feel me? He's our one that he's hitting the ground running. Obviously, you don't have a center. You lost Tyler Biadasz to you guys, obviously, and one of the problems that Tyler Biadasz had with the Cowboys was power. And that's what we wanted to get stronger and get more power on that offensive line, and that's what he brings. 6'3", about 320 pounds. He looks every bit of it. Not super athletic, but if you watch his tape, ain't nobody pushing that man on the ground. You get what I'm saying? Ain't nobody moving him. Ain't nobody pushing him back into the pile, pushing him back into your quarterback. You got a staunch guy who you can run your running backs in between the tackles and the guard and your center. That's what we need. We need. One of the biggest problems with the Dallas Cowboys offensive line was we had a good offensive line, but when we needed that 1 or 2 yards, we could never get it. And it was because we weren't a physical offensive line. And when you picked up Guyton and when you picked up Cooper Beebe, I think that's where you brought the physicality back. And I think that's what the Cowboys wanted, especially if you brought Ezekiel Elliott back. And especially if you look back at the running back room, it's all power. So might as well have a power offensive line. So that makes sense right there. And then when you talk about your other pick, which was in the 3rd round, which was Maris Leafield. If I said it correctly, if I said it wrong, please forgive me, dog. But we have been talking about Maris, me and you, Joe, all Senior Bowl. And my girl, Stargazer, shout out to her. She's the one that kind of told me about him. And I said, I'm definitely going to look at him. And he was one of my guys. Once I watched him intently at the Senior Bowl, he was one of my guys I wanted to draft. Okay. So I thought maybe they reached a little bit in that 3rd round. But I felt like they probably had to get him now because that 4th round, we didn't have a pick. And I felt like he probably would have been gone if they were picking by the 5th round. So I see why they did it. Obviously, the linebacker room, which was terrible last year with us, is a lot better this year. You got Damian Wilson, Demarion Overshown is coming back. You still got Damone Clark. You picked up Aaron Kendricks. So now the linebacker room looks a lot better. And then you bring in Maris, who is a guy who plays with his hair on fire as well. Super aggressive, maybe over aggressive at times, but I'll take that. And I like the linebacker room, and I think he could be a guy that you definitely play on special teams right now. And then you sprinkle him in and then see how he learns. But I think pinning him with Kendricks is a great person to be a mentor from or a mentor to with Kendricks. And I think that's a good pick right there. And then after that, this is where, when y'all said, where would y'all kind of change things? When they went after Maris, I believe on that pick, that's when Trey Benson and Marshawn Lloyd were still available in that 3rd round. that's where I felt like they could have did and got a Trey Benson, but obviously it may not have been that high on their board. But that's where I felt like you could have got the running back, and you still could have got a linebacker. Jalen Ford was available when you picked Carson at that pick from Texas. He was a linebacker that was picked right after that. So you could have got a linebacker. You know what I'm saying? It could have happened, and you could have had your running back and still kept an Ezekiel Elliott. You could have really did it. So that was my frustrating part when you went and picked Carson in that 5th round. Also, when you picked Carson and they went for Ryan Flournoy, the receivers from small school, Southeast Missouri State, I believe, you could have got a defensive tackle right there. There was a kid from Northern Illinois, I believe. I can't remember his name, but he was really good. My guy that I was talking about from Mississippi State, Cremedy, was available, Joe. And there was another defensive tackle, Wingo, from LSU. All those guys could have been had at the defensive tackle position, but you went and got the Flournoy kid and the Carson kid. So that's where I was kind of like, I didn't like that because I don't know what Flournoy does for the team. Obviously, he may have a chance because our receiver room, if CeeDee Lamb goes down, is bad, right? So he's got 4.4 speed, had a 39-inch vertical, had 11 broad jump. So the athletic traits are there, but just like George said, you went to a small school, though, bro. We don't know what you can really do for the team. Nathan Thomas, that's a project. That's why I can't really talk about him. I ain't really seen too much about him, but that's a project, and I don't even think he sees the field. And then Justin Rogers, who they're pumping up as this 7th-round draft pick, I ain't pumping up nothing about that dude. He's average. He just like all these other big defensive tackles that they draft that don't do nothing. And I just think they don't know how to draft defensive tackles, period. So first part of the draft, go ahead.
What I'm catching from you is running back and defensive tackle. You're still worried about that going into the season?
Sure, receiver too, if we're really talking about it, because the CeeDee Lamb go down, we in trouble. You know what I mean? So all that in general, the receiver position, I think you still need speed because you don't really have it. Flournoy, like I said, played in a small school. I can't get hyped on that. I can't get excited about that. You haven't played anybody. So where do I think you're going to be in the rotation? Defensive tackle, you got Mozzie, who's had shoulder surgery. He may not even be ready for the start of camp. That's what they're talking about. So you got rid of Jonathan Hankins. You have Carlos. You have the guy from they picked up from New York. Carl Long. What has he done? And then you got somebody else who we don't even know about. So that defensive tackle room is small again, and it don't matter if you got linebackers if you don't got no defensive tackles. So that's the frustrating part. You're talking about stopping the run, but you don't have anybody in there in that defensive tackle room that can stop the run. Obviously, we got the June 1st cuts coming. We know that's going to happen. People are going to get cut from training camp, and that's what they're going to kind of wait for. But honestly, I don't see anybody significant that's really going to come in and really help this team like that. And then, like I said, I think we need more explosiveness at the running back position. I don't want Ezekiel Elliott be the bell cow. I hope they don't have that thought in mind in doing that. And I just feel like they need more explosiveness on that running back position. So in those places, I feel like they're lacking, but they definitely build up the trenches on the offensive line. And, they always want to do that.
Yeah, the Cooper pick, I feel like maybe I'm reaching here, but I feel like if y'all would have switched Cooper and Tyler Guyton, Cowboys fans would have been elated. They would have been like, oh my God, we got the best. Because I feel like Cooper is probably more of a finished product, in my opinion, than Tyler Guyton is. But good players. I mean, the first 4 players I really like. I really like Kalen Carson. Maurice, yeah, you could say he's a little bit of a reach, but the way that the board fell, it is what it is. Marshawn Nealon, yeah, we talked about the Eagles, I think, had a top 30 visit with him, if I'm not mistaken. So we definitely had interest in him. But yeah, overall, I give the Cowboys like a B. I would say like a B. I think a B is fair. What would you grade your draft?
I gave him C+. You feel me? So
I'm nicer than you.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of people gave because they're looking at those top halves. I heard a lot of draft publications that liked our picks at the end. To me, they remain to be seen, and do they get on the field? So I gave it a high C+ just for the back half of the draft. And, I was at the B+ range in the first 4 picks, but I felt like they dropped a little bit in those last 4. So that's why I went with the C+.
Word. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We got over 300 people in the chat, have for about like 20-30 minutes right now. So I appreciate all y'all. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. We got my guy George Carmi on the show. If you do not already, be sure to go over there and follow, man. He's streaming the show as well. This is our guy. We're gonna have him on way more this season because these are always fun. I want to go over one last team. Apparently, there's one more team in the NFC East. So I want to go over their picks real quick, give some quick thoughts on them, and then I want to ask one last question to round the show out. But we'll look at the Giants. I had no idea that this was a team in our division. Apparently, they play Sundays too. But they had a smaller draft. Is this all their picks? I'm like, is this really all the picks that they had? But they went ahead, got Malik Neighbors at number 6, when I think a lot of people thought they might be going quarterback. They go wide receiver. They're giving Daniel Jeremiah another chance. So that's honestly where I want to start. How did y'all react when you saw Malik Neighbors going to the Giants? And do you think that was the right pick?
I can start off. Malik Neighbors is a great player, man. I love Malik Neighbors. I think he's 1A with Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, he's one of the coming out of the draft and, coming out of this college football, I think he's probably one of the best run after catch wide receivers in the entire draft class. I love him, but he looks miserable. Like, we're laughing about it. If you look at every single picture that he has, he's like upset, like fake smiling. Like, go on like the Giants Twitter, look at him signing his contract. He is at that, like, the get out face where he's like, why am I even here right now? He's not happy to have Daniel Jones be his quarterback. I guess from what I gathered, and I'm sure you guys catch us too in the NFC East circles, the owner loves Daniel Jones and thinks that he's worth investing in. I think they keep on reflecting back to 2022, where like he had a pretty good year, and he thought last year was kind of injured, so that's why he might bounce back. I don't see it. I think Daniel Jones shouldn't have been paid. I think Daniel Jones is what you're not supposed to do in the NFL. You don't pay a QB price tag for an average player, if that makes any sense, right? They overpaid for him, and they kind of pigeonholed themselves as a result of that. J.J. McCarthy was still available. Michael Penix Jr. was still available. Bo Nix was still available. They could pick any quarterback they wanted there. I was surprised they didn't get McCarthy, to be honest with you. Malik Neighbors is probably the best quarterback on the draft. Best player on the board at the time, so maybe that was a smart decision there. But, like, I think I'm not scared of Malik Neighbors because of Daniel Jones, if that makes any sense. And then the rest of the draft, this kind of unimpressive to me. Like Tyler Nubin, people gave him a lot of credit. He was supposed to be like, maybe even safety number 1. So he has some potential there. But, but like, I'm not really intimidated by their draft. Like, Theo Johnson is a project. Andrew Phillips, I'm not necessarily too scared of either. I'm impressed by Malik Neighbors, but I think his upside is limited considering the team that he's going to.
How you feel about that, about the pick?
I'm gonna go with George on that, especially with the Malik Neighbors pick. When they picked him, I know he was mad as hell. Like, man, I ain't even gonna get the ball this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got the kid last year. I can't remember his name. That was really fast from Tennessee. He looks totally pissed, and I love it. Daniel Jones, come on, bro. Let's I don't know what that owner sees in him, but you know what? I'm not mad at it. I want that owner. I want that owner to say, I love Daniel Jones. I want that owner to say, we got a lot of things that we can do with Daniel Jones. I want him to say all that, because every time he says that, that makes me happy that that's one team we ain't got to worry about. So obviously it's going to be Washington. It's going to be Philly that we'll be talking about, but we ain't got to be worrying about them Giants, because this draft didn't have a lot of picks, but it was this felt like kind of just mediocre beyond Neighbors. You know what I mean? I just felt like, Phillips could maybe do some Theo Johnson, but it was just like kind of when you got a quarterback like Daniel Jones, I don't know where you get excited. So keep that guy in there. Don't get rid of him. Don't cut him. I want them to keep Daniel Jones as long as they can, because as long as they keep him, we ain't never got to talk about the Giants.
Facts. Yeah, I will say I like Theo Johnson. You knew that I like Theo Johnson. I believe he was the player of the week at Senior Bowl for his side, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a good player. And I thought that this tight end group in general was kind of getting slept on. I think that there are some good players. Andrew Phillips, the Eagles actually met with him. He has some speed. I can't hate too much on that. Tyler Nubin, like you said, he was A lot of people thought he was like the safety number one.
Mm-hmm.
I never really saw. I always kind of had him at like number 3, number 4. I didn't think he was bad by any means, but like I never really put him as that top tier guy. But a lot of people did, so shout out to him. Darius Masau, I think that's a good flyer to take in the 6th round. I don't know much about Tyrone Tracy. I'll be 100% honest. You had so many running backs to pick, and you picked the one guy I don't really know too much about. To be honest. So, yeah, I mean, just to throw a grade out there, I guess I would give them like a solid like C. I think as C, maybe C plus, just because you do have Tyler Noob in there. Maybe that was a great, steal in the 2nd round. I would give them like a C. That's really where I'm at. What would y'all give them as far as grade goes?
I'm thinking C minus. And if you look at the actual, like, if their roster right now, they have no explosive people on offense, man. They have Malik. So they have Malik Neighbors. They have Darius Slayton. They have Wandale Robinson. I guess they drafted Jalen Hyatt a couple of years ago, the guy from Tennessee that James kind of talked about. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Their tight ends, Darren Waller, man. He's talking about retiring. He's dropping the ball. He's divorcing Kelsey Plum. I don't know why he's doing that. We got Devin Singletary at the running back. I mean, they're not looking too impressive. The Giants, man. I mean, whatever. We gotta see. I'm not impressed right now. We'll see what happens. But once again, Washington's got to step up the game up too. I'm not going to talk too much trash right now. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
George was feeling himself a little bit. Like, we had a good offseason. Man, F these guys, bro.
I feel that. I'm going to say, I'm going to go with C minus. I can't say D plus, because won't do that to him because Malik Neighbors is a good pick.
He is.
He's a very, very explosive player, and if they figure out a way to get him the ball along with Jalen Hyatt, they do got some explosiveness on that receiving core. It's just who's going to get them the ball. I think that's the biggest question. I think they really should, even though I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be all of that in the league, I still think that if he was available, you got a backup plan because let's keep it real. I think Tyrod Taylor is better than Daniel Jones, and you should have really just kept him right there in the wings. I don't know if he's still in the wings. That's who they need to keep, just in case he don't work. You got a real quarterback behind him. So I think if they had a Tyrod Taylor and with that core of receivers, I think it could be a little bit better. Defense, they got Thibodeau. They got a few guys, but they're just nobody that scares you. You know what I mean? They're just. Look at the Giants right now. It's just like, okay, kind of get them out the way early in the game, and then they're pretty much done. So that's just kind of the form with them. Get them out the game, get Daniel Jones out his game early, and then you kind of smooth sailing.
Do y'all think Drew Lock's going to start one game this year?
Yes. I think everybody's going to start for that quarter. They're going to.
Drew Lock beat them Eagles. Drew Lock beat them Eagles.
He didn't ask that. That wasn't the question. All right.
Yeah, he did beat them though.
But I think the Giants are. Yeah, I think the Giants are all over the place. Right. I don't know what they're going to do to try and figure it out. Like you said, maybe J.J. McCarthy isn't the answer, but I definitely don't think that Daniel Jones is the answer, and especially how much you're paying him. You got to get out of that contract. Mm-hmm. But the last question I want to ask, shout out to I keep shouting everybody out, but I love everybody here, man. We still got over 300 people in the chat. This is going to be the last question before we get out of here. So before we do get out of here, be sure to go follow George. Look at his name. You can follow him on Twitter. That's his Twitter handle, and he is streaming this show as well. So definitely go show some love. But the last question I want to ask both of you guys, because this is what it all comes down to. We could sit here and say, oh, they suck. We don't care. We don't. But has your team done enough? I'll start because obviously the Eagles went on a historic, dramatically ugly run towards the end of the year. So there was definitely improvements to be done. I think the Eagles have done enough. And the answer is also a question because it's like, what is enough for the Eagles? What are they trying to do? To me, it's Super Bowl. You are looking at trying to get into the Super Bowl every single year that you have the core of guys that you have. So I think that they added enough players to be prepared for right now and get better right now, but also keep that Super Bowl window open. So between picks and, actual players that we were able to receive this offseason, I think that the Eagles have done enough, and I'm sure everybody on this panel will agree it's not even close to over. There's still, free agents that are going to be out there, cuts that are going to happen. So it's not over, but I do think that the Eagles right now have done enough to feel comfortable moving forward. So we'll start with you, George, since you are the guest. But do you think the Washington Commanders, or whatever their names are going to be next year, do you think they have done enough to finally compete in the NFC East?
I think they will compete, man. It's all going to come down to Jaden Daniels. I think there's two parts of the question, right? Did they build the team well this offseason? They did, right? They got Bobby Wagner, they got Frankie Louvu, they got Jeremy Chin, they got Biadasz as their center. They got Dorrance Armstrong as a defensive end. We're kind of plucking these Cowboys one by one from your team.
Yeah, y'all always plucking. Y'all always plucking.
we do. So I think our roster has a nice high floor. I think our draft pick's going to do pretty well too. I think Ben Sinnott, that tight end, is going to play a lot. We had Zach Ertz, believe it or not. So we had that veteran presence, but I think Sinnett's going to be more of like a complimentary piece. Going to be playing a lot there. We had Austin Eckler as another running back as well. I mean, they're trying to win now. They're not trying to slowly. I think they're trying to build it while they're moving. I don't know if next year is going to be the year, but I think there is potential. I can see Washington winning, like 7, 8, 9, potentially 10 games. It's something along the lines of that, depending on Jaden Daniels' play. And we see it every year. We saw the Texans go from nothing to, making noise in the playoffs, final 8 teams in the NFL. So we'll see how Jaden Daniels does. If he has like a rookie of the year type of deal, that'd be good. Real quick, someone's asking about my channel link. So, my guys, if you want to follow me, it's the Big Doug and Carmi show. Actually, I'm transitioning into a new program, and we'll talk about that when we close the show in a moment. But yeah, so thank you for that, Ms. Ray. I appreciate that. But we'll see, man. Jaden Daniels, we'll see how he plays out. I'm pretty excited about that.
And James, how are you feeling about your Cowboys? Have y'all done enough?
I don't know. I'm in that middle. Have we done enough? I think they really helped that offensive line. Maybe I feel like the offensive line that wasn't really a detriment last year, but it was so uneven. I think the offensive line, if those rookies and Tyler Guyton and Cooper Beebe really hit the ground running, I think that offensive line becomes a strength. You got Terrence Steele coming back from that torn up knee. I think he gets better because he showed a couple years ago why they gave him that deal. Also, obviously you got Zach Martin, who's your rock. I think he's Mr. Consistent. And then Tyler Smith, you saw what he did at guard. I think he's a perennial all-pro there at guard. So if those other rookies hit the ground running, that quote unquote may have been a weakness last year, will become a strength. So in that aspect, you did enough. You protecting your quarterback, but I think where I'm like, I think it's kind of in the middle is because I still feel like that running back room is not upgraded. You're relying on kind of the old school type of theory, and I don't think it's going to work. And I just feel like your defensive tackle room needs to be upgraded, and you're waiting for these June 1st cuts. And I wonder if that person that gets cut is somebody that you want, because if you look how Dallas signs their players, they don't get young players. They get guys more toward the end of their careers, not the beginning, because the older players are going to take the cheaper contracts, right? So you're not going to get the 26, 27-year-olds. You're going to get the 32, 33, 34-year-old guys, right? Because those are the guys going to accept 2-year deals, because that's as far as Dallas goes on that position. And it doesn't cost money. They're not going to pay money. So I feel like, no, I don't think they did enough. They did some enough on that offensive line, but as a whole for the team, no, I don't think they did enough for the team. I feel like they still need to upgrade positions. And I feel like the guys that they're waiting on, because if you've seen the last 4 years how they done Mike McCarthy, they've been active in free agency and side free agents around March and before the draft. They haven't done that this year beside Kendricks, and that's kind of alarming to me. And that's what's standing out to me more than anything else.
Yeah, that's music to my ears. I love that. I love that. I ain't mad at that. Hey, but I'm looking forward to this. We could say all that we want right now. At the end of the day, nothing really matters till it actually, hits the ground, hits the field. Then we'll actually be able to know what's going on. But I think this is going to be a really fun year because we are pretty darn competitive. I mean, Washington really can compete this year, and I'm not just saying that because he's here, but they really can. They can do something this year. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Well, we won't be the NFC least this year. It'll probably be, maybe back to the NFC beast. We'll be feeling ourselves. But before we get out of here, we still got 333 people in the chat. I just dropped the link to George Carmi's show at Big Doug and Carmi. So definitely go follow them if you haven't already. But before we get out of here, George, let them know what you got coming up, anything they should be looking out for, and just where to follow you.
Gentlemen, first of all, thank you for having me. I love coming on this show. It's a blast every single time. We should get together during training camp season and talk about what we're hearing from training camp and what's happened. Kind of like local reporters from the show. It'd be awesome. It'd be great. For those of you in the chat, man, thank you for jumping in and talking to me during the show. My name is George Carmi. My Twitter handle is at gcarmi21. I do a show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday with Big Doug. It's called the Big Doug and Carmi Show. We're getting some good guests. We had Brett Coleman last week on Monday. We had Rafe Hassan on Wednesday. We're going to start getting into more fantasy football. It's going to be our next big move. We have Andrew Erickson from Fantasy Pros coming on next Wednesday, talking about, people to draft and dynasty drafts as well. So we're not just Commanders content. We try to be NFL industry, kind of everything. So we're trying to be all encompassing. So check us out, man. I'm glad to hear it.
Definitely. James, you got anything you want to say to these beautiful people before we get to here? It is a beautiful Friday. So I know we all gonna have some adult beverages.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. I'm having one right now. Lord forgive me.
There you go.
But
there you go.
Only thing I have is shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Love, we had over 300 in the chat. Really appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. Like I said, love having George on here. We're definitely going to have him on here more. I think he just adds a great element to Washington, to the Washington side. And like I said, I feel like Washington's going to be competitive this year. So I think it's a good thing that, George is going to be here. It's going to be contingent on that quarterback. But I just want to give one last shout out to my dog, Julius Wood. You had mentioned it before on the undrafted. And I said this before and I'll say it again. If you're an undrafted rookie free agent, the best, honestly, the team, in my opinion, is to come to is the Dallas Cowboys, because you really have a chance. They have had tons of undrafted rookie free agents or free agents come to the team and play significant roles. Tony Romo is one of them, and plays very significant roles on the team. So my dog, Julius Woods, he played on my dog's little league team, which was his son. And, I've known Stevie. We've known each other for over 40 years. So it was one of his young boys. And it's like the little league to the big leagues. It's just, I really don't know how to explain it. Just to give a quick background to it, I was talking to his dad when the draft was going on, and he was telling me that all these teams were calling, Julius, hey, wishing them best luck. And, if you don't get drafted, we're going to pick you up. It was all these calls, coming to him. And he told me that Dallas never reached out to him at no time. They didn't call him. They didn't talk to him. No, nothing. He said immediately after the draft was over, Cowboys called him and offered him a contract. So in that, my opinion, I feel like if the Cowboys did that, then they had their eyes on you. They did not want to talk about you. They did not want to say anything about you. They want to keep you on the low because you were one of the players that they really wanted. And I really feel like he honestly has a real chance to make this team. So I'm on cloud nine, bro. That's all I got to say. I'm on cloud nine, dog, because if Julius makes the team, even if he just stashed him away this year, because they did that with Wanye Thomas. He was an undrafted free agent from Georgia Tech. And look, he might possibly be a starter this year. So if they stash him away for 1 year and then let him shine the next year, I'm going to go crazy. Like, it's going to be a whole I ain't going to be drinking the Kool-Aid, but you will see me with that Cowboys jersey with Julius Wood on the back.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. So congratulations to you, to him, and to the rest of his family. That's always an amazing, amazing feeling, man. I know I would be going crazy. Shout out to my nephews, man. Y'all need to get it together. Right? y'all should be NFL players, basketball, something, okay? I need free tickets to somewhere. But at the end of the day, man, we appreciate all y'all. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Still over 300 people in the chat. Be sure to show love wherever you are. Go somewhere else, show love there. But yeah, enjoy y'all Friday. Y'all know what it is. I am Joe. That's my dog, James. And we brought a friend, George Carmi. And we are all the best of enemies. So, peace.
We're brothers. We're happy and we're singing and we're colored.